It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, July 5th, and so happy for you joining us, and we are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the Bible word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? It is a wonderful Wednesday. It is Hump Day, the middle of the week, and hope you guys have enjoyed your week so far. We have a Wednesday service tonight, so hope you guys will all be prepared and ready for that. If you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like or comment to build our community together. Really happy for everyone joining us every week down the Morning Star Drive, so let's get up and support each other each and every day. All right. Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week. Super happy to be here. Really happy that we can get moving fully into July. Yes, we're already on the 5th. We're almost finished the first week of July, as crazy as that sounds. We have service tonight. Hope you guys are looking forward to it. Make sure you pray for your preachers to have that fire of the Holy Spirit so everyone can be inspired and moved to take action. Just a reminder, tomorrow is Q&A Thursday, so please leave your questions or anything that you have. Go ahead, leave them in the comments, or you can DM me, whatever it is. I would love to hear any more questions that you guys are going through at this moment. All right, so today I have an interesting thing I want to talk about because this came out in the comments just the other day, and it's on my coloring books. And this is a very interesting comment, and the one thing I want to tell you guys is I love your comments regardless of what your viewpoints or your opinions are, because this is what it is. It's like sometimes people have preferences, opinions, and one thing I love about comments is when you give me feedback about certain things that you've checked, or like say for instance on my coloring books. The one thing that I cannot see is myself, right? This is one of the hardest things for everyone. That's why it's good to have someone to hold you accountable. And especially when it comes to this podcast, I love it when you guys are out there giving opinions, feedback, different things that you thought. And I'm going to tell you guys this. We're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to have different feelings all the time, right? So we're not, like, if you take like say the 200-300 people that are listening here, if we're not all going to have the same opinion, right? We're not going to all have the same thoughts either, but it's great to hear other sides and other stories, because sometimes we don't, like, even for myself when it comes to these coloring books, sometimes I may not know how I look or how I sound or the products that I give, right? And if I don't, sometimes we can, sometimes we're not angry, and yet but to other people, we sound angry, and they'll say to us like, man, why are you so angry? But the answer is, I'm not angry, but I don't know what I look like, and I don't know what I sound like. You know what I mean? So this is why comments and feedback is really, really good. And going to be super transparent about this one here too. There's two major points that came out from this comment, and I hope you guys can give your personal opinions too. And I think it's very, very important everyone gives their personal opinion. Everyone's opinion should be respected, but it doesn't mean you have to agree with every single person's opinion, right? That makes sense, because that's basically what the respect is, right? So there's this person that visited my coloring book links that I posted yesterday, and they said they admired the beautiful covers, but they said they were disappointed to discover that a female author persona with an AI-generated bio is being used, okay? So, and then they did preface, like they did, what do you call it? What's that word? They did say that, they do understand the use of pseudonyms. Pseudonyms is like a false name that they use, and pseudonyms are used by authors a lot, right? So in the world of authors, it's huge because a lot of people don't want the limelight, or they don't want any publicity, right? So this person did say they understand the use of pseudonyms, but this is the first point, is it may undermine your credibility as a Providence pastor and truth speaker on 117.8. So there's a very, very first point, right? There's the first point made, is having a pseudonym, and it looks like for this person, they're particularly concerned that it's a female author with AI-generated bio, okay? So there's the first one. And they say it might undermine your credibility as a Providence pastor. okay, or truth speaker on MSD 117.8 for using a pseudonym, okay? Now, second part is suggesting keeping your business venture separate from the platform, as it is a space for members seeking guidance, inspiration, and advice. And I have some thoughts on that too, right? So I think those are two very, very good and valid points. I like them, all right? So I want to step into them one by one. So I do think one of the things that might be that I do think would be too much is when you become like what do you call those, like those the prosperity gospels, right? And I think that's wrong. Meaning, like, you're like, hey, if you want God to bless you even more, put more in the offering basket. Or hey, I'm not going to allow you to do this. Or like, this podcast is no longer free. You have to pay money to get into this. And like, those are some ways that, people might be a little bit more like, oh, this seems more like I don't think you should mix your business with your truth speaking or whatever it is, right? And I understand that point too, right? And I'll be very transparent about what my thoughts are about this, but the most important part is there is respect on every opinion. I give my opinion too, but I would love to hear your opinion also, because this is a public channel, and I would love to hear what you guys also think. So already a couple people are already chiming in, some from DMs and some on the comments, right? So having an AI coloring book with an AI generated author and bio what they're saying here is, if I have a pseudonym and an AI generated photo with an AI generated bio, right? It would undermine my credibility. Okay. So this is my personal answer to this. And my personal answer is I kind of disagree with it, right? And I would love to hear what others think. But one thing that people do respect is anonymity, right? And this person also wrote themselves, they do respect the anonymity, and they have, of course, we have the right to choose anonymity and not showing our name, our face, everything else. And just to let you know, in the author world too, because I had to research this, is in the author world, pseudonyms are used a lot, and stock photos are used for their pictures also. Stock photos, right? So if you look at that, it's like, oh, okay, so this is, so this is kind of a common thing when it comes in, especially when it comes to authorship of books and stuff like that too, right? So this is not like uncommon. My next question to everyone out there would be, is if I want to use a pseudonym, does it matter if I choose a male or female persona? Would that matter? If I chose to be anonymous and, it's going to be like a fake name, because I'm a guy, do I have to choose a guy? There's one thing. That's one question I have to ask, right? And this is completely AI generated. The photo is AI generated. The name is I chose myself, because PK is like my initials for my original name. And then the rest of it's just there to be funny, right? Because it's just like Chadwick, PK Chadwick the Third, right? That's why I chose it. Just kind of be a kind of a funny thing, right? And the pseudonym I chose is just kind of a fun thing. And personally, my thoughts is, if I'm going to be anonymous, and, just as other authors do use pseudonyms and they choose stock photos, I just used AI, right? Which means that personally, I think it doesn't matter whether it's a male or female I choose. And just as other authors will use stock photos, I used an AI generated photo with the AI generated bio, right? So, another example of something like this that happened where no one really got angry about it, like, let me guess, like, for instance, like, Victoria's Secret, the secret is that it's not Victoria, it's a man. I think it's like Victor or something like that. That's the Victoria's Secret. And no one really got mad about that either, because it's a common thing, right? Victoria's Secret is just a name, right? So for this, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Right? Like, I can see why people might think, oh, but isn't that lying? And the answer is, well, no, in the world of authors, authorship, and for me, these are just coloring books. They're not like I'm writing stuff down. But even that, I wouldn't think it was that bad, because it's normal and common in the authorship world of people who don't want limelight and don't want any publicity, right? And, a couple things that I would say is, one thing about this channel is for members, and unless you're very, very new to this channel, most people here know me pretty well, Like and even here, like because this channel is a members channel and it's very, very open, I told you guys straight out, it's an AI. I made AI coloring books, right? I went through the whole process for the entire month, and I told everyone I was open about it, so everyone knows that when they look at those books, it is actually me. And most of my responses have been, "Hey, take a look at my coloring book." They're like, "Oh, wait, is that you? Are you PK Chadwick the Third?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's just the name I'm using." And then when I say yes to it and I explain to them, they laugh, and then we just continue with our conversation. But of course, if I'm having a conversation, it means these people are closer to me, right? So my question to you guys would probably have to be is, does having a pseudonym have a negative connotation for a pastor, or is it okay, right? So, like I said, the pseudonyms are used. I don't want to be out there. This is just trying it. I tried it for 1 month on AI, and I put out 17 coloring books, and that's it, right? So for me, that's why I didn't think it was a big deal, because this is not like a huge venture I'm doing every single day. I just tried it for 1 month. I paid money for the AI, and I tried it for 1 month. So I own everything, right? So, it's to avoid limelight. I don't want any publicity, anything else like that. And instead of a stock photo, because I'm using AI already, I used an AI generated photo, right? And in the authoring world, this is quite normal. Like usually they'll use stock photos if they don't want to show their own faces, right? And that's it. So my question to you is, does it make a difference if a pastor uses a pseudonym? And I would say that, like, my personal feeling is, it would only make a difference is if the content was bad. Like, imagine I'm Pastor Sky, and then all of a sudden I use a pseudonym for like a book on 100 ways how to kill someone, or if I made a book on like that had some type of hatred against a certain group of people or whatever it is. I think that would make a difference, because that's like me trying to hide myself. But these are coloring books for kids, so I didn't look at it as a big deal, right? So when I checked in, like, what's it called? Something stats. I was checking some statistics in a Christian website, and they said the biggest problem that pastors have of using pseudonyms is not actually a pastor using a pseudonym to write another book. The biggest problem in the Christian world is people who are not pastors using a pseudonym like Pastor John, Pastor Dave. So they'll pretend to be pastors, and that's kind of the bigger problem in the pastor world, I guess. So there's the first question that I give to you guys is, yeah, does that using a pseudonym, and does it have, like, because I'm a guy, do I have to use a guy pseudonym, right? And like, I wanted to put everything into context that in the authorship world, it is quite normal to have a pseudonym, a fake name, plus they'll put a stock photo. And the reason why they'll put a stock photo there is because people are more willing to trust a face when the face is out there rather than seeing a blank face or like an avatar. They trust when they see a face, right? So that's why authors will take a stock photo and put it there too, right? So that's the question is, would that undermine my credibility, right? And for me, since this is a members channel, and at least it's targeted for members. For myself, I think my credibility is not based on those things, and it will not be undermined by, like, say, this coloring book using a pseudonym. My credibility is going to be based on my actions, my thoughts, my experiences, and like the things that I actually say on the podcast, right? And, just to let you know, some of you might be pretty new. Like, I know some people have been here for the last 3 years, so they know everything about me, right? They know what I am, what I'm like, all the different things that I try. And people need, like, if you're new, you need to know that this Morning Star Drive started off purely voluntary, right? Even now, I don't have a mission. I'm not hired by anyone in Providence. I'm not being paid by any, I don't have any sponsor for people in Providence. I'm not connected to a church or paid by any entity of Providence, right? I don't have a mission, right? This is me doing it on my own. And you got to actually, and if you think about this, like, technically speaking, this is my business. This channel is my business. It is. It's where I make my money. And it's like, well, if you got to think about it this way, if it's really about just business and my pastorship, like keeping this channel away from my business ventures, I think then people would have to talk about Patreon and talk about my clothing line too, right? You'd have to talk about both of those things. But none of those things have been talked about either because, basically this is what a business or this is what people do. It is, I provide a service for you and you'll pay for different types of services that I give to you, right? And people are very, it's not something because I am spiritual or I'm in the religious sector that I'm not allowed to do those things, right? So for me is I don't see it as I still don't see it as a bad thing, but since it was brought up in my comments, I really wanted to see it from a different perspective or what you guys thought. Like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Like there was actually already someone who already talked about it as a response, and they're like going, yeah, I got no problem with it. And this person actually thought it was fine because life and faith are the same thing. Go ahead, put your business ventures in there. It's fine. And this person appreciates it, right? But then they're like, and at the end they're like, yeah, but maybe just put a disclaimer to prevent any misunderstanding, right? So, this person is, the other person that wrote it is like, yeah, this is a practice of words if it's done with the inspiration or talent given by or gifted by the Holy Spirit. So for me, I'm like, I'm kind of more on that side. Like, yeah, I don't see it as a big deal, but I would like to know, and I will apologize now if I have ever sounded too businessy, like I'm trying to sell. Right? Like I'm just doing too much selling. Like that's something that I would apologize for that I didn't feel that I did because I can't hear myself, but you guys hear me, right? So if I did ever sound like that, then I am, I apologize for that because I'm not trying to be like selly. Like, like, oh my gosh, you guys got to support me. This, and this. You got to support me. And that's why I usually only advertise like Patreon and stuff like that like once a week. Usually just once a week, just letting you know it's out there. We have a lot of new members that come in here and then too, right? So that's my thoughts on the first one about the pseudonyms. And I would like to know what your thoughts are on that too. The second part about this is actually about the business side of it. Should my business ventures be separated from this channel? And I actually had to think about this one really deeply. I had to because I'm like going, oh, that's true because I don't want to be like a person selling the gospel. But then on the flip side, I was like, actually, I'm not selling the gospel because for instance, all the clothing line, is it selling the gospel because it has synonyms, proverbs on it? No one's actually had an issue with that because people are like, oh, that's so cool you have that. I'm so glad you have that. I'm glad you're selling this, right? And would it be wrong for me to sell those things on this channel, like clothing line that has proverbs on it? And personally, I don't think so, right? And Patreon is people support this channel so it can continue to grow and continue, it will support me like it's my main income kind of thing, right? And then these coloring books is because I love children, right? And there's already so many coloring books out there. And I thought to myself, oh, I should make something for kids too because, I want to benefit them also. It's not spiritual at all. Even that one's actually not spiritual at all. So this one could be something we could look at and say that maybe you shouldn't put this coloring book on here, right? And that's the kind of thoughts that I was having. And then I had another, like, these are two thoughts that I have that I'm still dealing with, like, oh, what would be the best one, right? And it's a tough thing for me because technically this channel is my business. It is literally my business. All my skills, all my tools, because I stepped down from head leading, I stepped down from running full-time for church, I had to find a way to make a living without not working in a church, being a head leader, and those types of missions, right? And for me, my inspiration came on 3:16 when Sunstein was preaching in 2020, 3:16, and he's like saying, do it now. If you're going to do something, you got to do it right now. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And even for me, like this is literally my business, my school, my skills, my tools that I've picked up here in this history, and I use it to help many people. And this platform has helped many people. And I use Patreon, the clothing, and now coloring books as, hey, these are the different things that I'm doing. If you like to support, it's up to you guys. And if anything else, I would just like a review, a 5-star review. That's it. That kind of thing, right? So for me, it is my business. It is not, this is actually, and some of you might not know this channel is not part of Providence. Like it's not officially, it's not an official source. This is not a Providence, like I am part of Providence, talking about Providence things, but I am officially not speaking on behalf of Providence. It's a separate venture. I'm basically like a Providence entrepreneur, right? And I am not officially talking for Providence. These are my thoughts. I talk about the word and everything else, my realizations, my opinions, my preferences, or my thoughts on certain things. So if you say that you come here to my channel for the truth, advice and guidance, I think that's part of it. It's not the main thing. I don't think the main thing for especially a lot of the listeners is not just for truth. If you're just looking for truth, that's going to be every Sunday and every pre-dawn, right? And every Wednesday message. That's truth, right? For me, this channel is not so much just, it's not just truth, advice, and guidance, because I try my best to provide entertainment. I do, try to get people to be more get thought-provoking material so people can think more deeply about their own faith. So there's a lot of different things that are a part of it, right? So this service that I provide for you guys, right? It's just, no one told me to do it. Providence never told me to do it. It's completely separate from everyone else. My skills, my tools that I've learned, that God has given to me, that I've developed over the last 25 years, my experiences, and I made into something useful for many people in this history. Well, not many, but for the English-speaking nations. And it's also for myself, right? Even in the first year and a half, I never made a single dollar, right? I didn't make a lot of money in the first year and a half. Like, I didn't even get monetized at that time. So that's why I would like you guys to comment also. And I respect what everyone thinks, right? Like I said, I'm going to respect what everyone thinks, because that is a true opinion, and that opinion belongs to you. So I'm not going to say like, oh, that was dumb. Oh, that was a stupid thing you said. No, because that is an opinion, and we should really be respecting what everyone says. It doesn't mean that I have to follow what you say, right? However, I do want to hear what you guys think, because it allows me to think much more deeply about the full situation, right? I will take into consideration what you guys think also. That will change my point of view. Like, oh, this makes sense. I never thought about this, right? So once again, I do apologize if I ever come off as like this program has become a selling thing. Like, oh, you have to buy this, you have to buy that. And I hope I've never made it so that you feel like you have to buy anything, right? So I do apologize if you've ever felt that before. I'm totally not doing that either. If I really wanted to do something, I would take it off YouTube and I would make it a pay-only site, like put all of it on Patreon. But this is something I do think I just enjoy doing this, talking to many people, right? And it's, people inspired will do it. Those who are not, it's okay, it's fine, no difference, right? So, yeah. So that is it. That's those 2 points that were made in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Yeah, it's something that I will respect. Right? It's like, this is a channel for members. And like I said, my personal feeling is a coloring book will not undermine my credibility. Like, even if I have an AI-generated pseudonym, AI-generated photo and bio for myself, I don't think that would undermine my credibility. And I think most people are not even going that far to read that much, right? So that's my feeling so far, right? And the vast majority of comments that I've received have either been neutral, positive, or they just flat out laugh at me, right? So, that's what I've experienced. But since I got this one feedback, I did want to bring it up because I want to hear what you guys think about it too, right? If you feel that a pseudonym undermines my credibility, or because it's a female persona, whatever it is, then please write in the comments and write privately if you wish. I'm cool with that too. And just want to let you guys know, I hope, I'm going to just put a disclaimer here. I hope I don't sound upset or unhappy about that comment. I am not. This is not about, I'm not unhappy or upset. I'm actually really happy because it gives me more content to talk about during this podcast. And I think healthy conversation is great. And I would love to continue to hear your thoughts and opinions. Even if it's against mine, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with it, right? I would love to talk about it and have these times to just come together and hear other people's thoughts also. On a side note, though, do people really come to this podcast just for truth, advice, and guidance? Like, is that the main reason or just part of it? Because, I go into my daily life, there's commentaries of things going on, and I try my best to keep you guys entertained. You know what I mean? Like, I try to, and if you think about some of the things I say, I think some of the things I think I'm kind of ridiculous at times. And I do super stupid things all the time. So when this person wrote, people come here for the truth, advice, and guidance, I think that they do, part of it is for that, but definitely not all of it, because I am stupid. And just, I was gonna say the R word, but I'm kind of stupid and ridiculous at times, because I do want to provide some type of entertainment too, where it's not gonna be just like, hello guys, welcome to the Morning Star Drive, and today we're gonna go straight into the Word. So let's go into today's first point. Today's first point, like I don't want to be like that. I'm a very, very I like to be very fun. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't like head leading, because I couldn't just be fun all the time. And that's just my character, right? And I got to be serious sometimes. And sometimes I don't want to be serious. Like, you guys ever had that? When it's too serious, you just want to, like, break the ice and just, like, you want to say something that just breaks the, like, that's what I feel sometimes, like, whoa, this is way too serious. I got to say something funny right now. And, sometimes that's not a very good thing to do, but sometimes I do that. But either way, yeah. So I am kind of ridiculous and stupid at times, and I like to provide some entertainment. And I want this program to be entertaining, insightful, and helps you guys out when it comes to faith or the things when it comes to the Word, right? So that is something I definitely think would be something that that's kind of where my heart is going, right? So to everyone, to each their own opinions, their own thoughts, and everyone is entitled to their own opinions. And I want to hear them. And don't ever feel bad for saying something that might disagree with me. I'm cool with that. I am. And just know that I'm a man. I'm an old man, so I could get grumpy at times. And, sometimes my ego will kick in, and I have to control myself. Yeah. Okay, what are you doing, Sky? Come on. I'm like, yeah, okay, right? So, everyone, to each their own. Thank you so much for writing in the comments. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you guys continue to do that all the time, too. Super grateful and thankful for everyone who supports this channel voluntarily, and to everyone who supports and also contributes to the channel. Very, very grateful and thankful. And I do know, as someone who is on the internet, my content and my style of content may not be for everyone. It just may not be, right? Just as I know, as a head leader, sometimes someone doesn't want to talk to me. They'd rather talk to another leader instead, and I understand, because there's styles and fits and everything else, and this channel is not going to fit everyone also, but I'm thankful for every person that stuck around and puts up with my nonsense. Right? So, yeah. Like, even, can you imagine if everyone really liked what I would, like, if everyone agreed and wanted to talk to me? It would be crazy that I had to talk to like 300 people. Like, there's no way. Like, right now, I'm super thankful that I have a good about 15 to 25 people that I talk to, right? And that's a lot, right? It's really, really a lot. But I'm super thankful that even this group that I have is not every single person in Providence and such. Either way. So, great comment. Thank you so much for writing that, and you articulated it really well. And I liked it because I was able to see a side that I totally wasn't thinking about, like a new angle of it. And it did make me think a lot for the last 24 hours. I was thinking about it a lot, right? Retracing my thoughts. Why did I do this? And it was a great mental exercise for me. So thank you once again. All right. Some of you guys are wondering about Health is Happiness. Health is Happiness. There's going to be an episode today, but last week was the last episode, and I understand. Final episode was last week, but some people were asking, saying that, there should be some of them that should be replayed because they're very, very insightful, and not everyone gets to hear them. And that's why today I'm going to start off with Julius. He had a 4-part series on sleep, and I think this is a very, very important one, especially this week's message when Sunsteam said, sleep just enough not to die, right? So he's got this great 4-part series he's researched on sleep, so we'll get into that for the last segment today. Okay, so that's from Julius. So we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so there it is, guys. Let's get into the first break for the day. All right, guys, so let's get into the word study for today. And every Wednesday, we have the Bible word study, and we go over important questions, scriptures, how books came to be. But today I want to talk about something a little bit special. I'm going to talk about the rapture and like the Lord's second coming and the rapture, but from the Christian perspective. And I'm going to talk about 3 different theories that we should know when we're talking to people of the former faith, because a lot of times people are not aware, or they don't know what the former faith believes. So we're kind of stuck when they say certain things to us, especially these 3 theories that are out right now when it comes to rapture and the Lord's second coming. They'll say something like, hey, are you pre-trib, post-trib, or mid-trib, right? And trib means tribulation. You know, post is after tribulation, mid is in the middle, and pre is from, from before, right? And this is views of the Lord's second coming, and this is something that we're actually teaching, right? So one of the things about Providence is one of our main doctrines is eschatology, which is a study of end times or last days. So whenever someone says eschatology, you know it's a study of end times and last days. Okay, and today I do want to go over the 3 different views: the pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, and post-tribulation. Pre-trib, mid-trib, and post-trib. And I want to just give you guys a general idea of what it's talking about, so that when you hear it, it's not going to be so foreign to you. You're not going to feel like you're not equipped or prepared to talk to these people, right? So first, we're going to start off with mid-tribulation. Oh, before we get into this, just to let you know that there is a prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, I believe, that talks about the final 7 years. And it's supposed to be 7 years of intense, crazy tribulation never seen before. And people attribute that to the time of the Lord's second coming and the time of the rapture, right? So when you hear about the 7 years, it's talking about the prophecy from Daniel chapter 9, okay? So here we go. So let's go into the first one, which is mid-tribulation. Now, what is mid-tribulation? Well, we know that there's a prophecy of a 7-year tribulation, great tribulation time. And mid-trib is exactly what it means. Mid means right in the middle at 3.5. What does that mean? Well, 3.5 is obviously times and half times, but 3.5 means that the Christ will come, tribulation begins, and for the first 3.5 years, the church will experience that tribulation. And then in the middle at 3.5 years, we'll be raptured up to meet the Lord in the air. And then the second half of tribulation is going to be, then the second half of tribulation is going to happen, which is supposed to be even worse. Okay? So what does it mean? What is this talking about? So you'll look at verses like Matthew chapter 24 that talks about the Lord's second coming. Matthew 24:22 talks about the elect, right? Like the saints, the people of God, which will be part of the tribulation, right? So you'll even see in the book of Revelation talking about the seven seals, and the seven trumpet calls. And in mid-trib, they believe that there is no need for the church not to be present for these tribulations that are taking place, especially the first half. So what's the difference between the first half tribulation and the second half tribulation? Well, in mid-trib view, the first half of tribulation is all natural disasters. So they're not things that we cannot handle. So the church should be there. But after we get raptured in the middle, the second 3.5 years is going to be more divine. Basically, they'll say that the seventh and final trumpet call will be blown, and it'll be the outpouring of the bowls of divine wrath. Right? You'll find that seventh trumpet in Revelation 11:15. Right? And in the what you're gonna find out, what they're saying is the first half is natural, so that the church can handle it, and the second half is divine wrath, where the church will be taken away. Okay, so that is mid-trib. Does that make sense? It makes sense because it's in the middle. Let's go to the second one. The second point of view is called post-trib rapture view. And, it basically is exactly what it says. The church will go through the entire tribulation rather than being raptured before or in the middle, right? So this is after we go through the entire 7 years. So the rapture of the church and the resurrection of all dead saints occur at the same time at the end of the 7-year tribulation. And that's basically commenting on 1 Thessalonians 4:16 and 17, which says that the dead in Christ will rise first, and then those that are still alive will be caught up to meet the Lord in the air. So it looks like two different events, right? But here, they'll make it a singular event where both the dead in Christ and those who are still alive will rise together after the 7 years. Pretty easy, right? That is happening after the 7 years. Okay? So, the reason why people in post-trib are saying this, why they believe this, is because in the Bible, the church is never told that it will escape tribulation. Like you look at most of the scriptures, it talks about we're going to go through tribulation. We're going to go through difficult times. It's quite a common thing in the Bible, right? So you're going to see that all throughout the New Testament, Old Testament, whatever it is, or at least in the New Testament, the word tribulation is used like 55 times, right? It's talking about this tribulation, the enduring of the saints, right? So that is something that they're like, hey, the Bible never says anything about escaping tribulation, so we're going to go through the whole thing, right? And 1 Thessalonians 4:17 describes the church meeting the Lord in the air, right? But, in this theory, they say that the Lord takes the church onto heaven. It doesn't say whether once they meet the Lord in the air, where do they go? Right? Do they go to heaven for 3.5 years or for 7 years? Or what's happening there, right? So there's one of the things you'll start to realize when you hear these theories from the former faith, we really have the answers much more clearly, right? These are three different views on the rapture, right? And there's millions of people supporting all three of these. Right, so you're gonna see, a lot of the evidence for post-trib, we're gonna go through the entire 7 years, is basically because the Bible never says we escape it, and there's so much stuff in the Bible about we have to endure and persevere as the saints, kind of thing. Right. Last one we're gonna take a look at is pre-trib, and the general description is pretty, self-explanatory. The church is taken up or raptured before the 7 years actually starts, so we don't go through any of it. Right. So this time of tribulation, in this viewpoint, is seen as very unique, super intense, super severe, and that's why they call it the Great Tribulation, right? And this is going to, this Great Tribulation is distinguished from all other persecutions, trials, tribulations that the church has been through in the past. But what they say here for pre-trib is the church is exempt, right? So what happens is Christ's second coming comes first, and then it's going to come in two stages. The first stage is when Christ comes for the church and meets the church in the air. And then the second stage is when Christ comes with the church to set up his kingdom and usher in the millennium. Like that's what the viewpoint is for the pre-trib rapture view. So the purpose, and what they'll say in pre-trib, they'll say that the purpose of tribulation has two reasons for it, right? Number one is to conclude the time of the Gentiles, and number two is to save the Jewish people and prepare for the restoration of Israel in the millennium kingdom. Like that's what the two reasons are, right? And then of course I'll talk about resurrection and the two main judgments. So it is quite interesting, and I hope it's something that you guys will look at and say, oh, okay, so this is what it means, right? So what is their proof? Right? What is their proof that this is like pre-trib actually exists? Remember, all of them have scriptures that do support it. The first one is Romans chapter 5, verse 9. Since we have now been justified by his blood, how much more shall we be saved from God's wrath through him? So like, oh, we're going to be saved through God's wrath, right? So there's one way of looking at it and saying, oh, this is what they're actually saying. Okay, so that's the first thing. Like there's like 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 10, 5 verse 9 all talk about us escaping the, like we no longer need to go through this wrath, which kind of goes against what post-trib says, right? So it's very, very interesting. And it talks about other support for this is there's a need for an interval between the rapture of the church and the return of Christ, right? So Revelation chapter 17, verses 7 through 9 portrays the church as pure before Christ comes, and the judgment seat of Christ where where all of our works and merit are judged and rewards given has already occurred, right? So there's a lot of different things that are like when I read it, I was like, oh man, this is so confusing. But when we read it, it's so different because when we talked about in pre-trib about the seventh trumpet call. Oh no, in mid-trib, that the seventh trumpet call is in the middle where you have the crazy tribulation happening. But we all know that the trumpet call of God from like Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 and 2 is talking about the words of God. Right? The voice of the Archangel Gabriel, who brings news, right? That the Lord is coming or the rapture is happening. We saw that happen like on March 13th, right? 2015. So we already understand what these points are making, that I am so thankful because it is so much easier. It really is. It's so much easier to think about it, right? And for us to understand it, it is simplified and it's put in such a way that we're like, oh, okay, this is what it means. But just think about these three different doctrines and viewpoints I just told you about now, pre, mid, and post. And I'm not even going deeply into it, right? I'm not even going deeply into it. So it's very, very interesting, and I hope it's something that helps you guys out because, we're going to face these people and we just need to know just the general points, right? So pre, mid, and post-tribulation is all referring to the Lord's second coming and when the rapture actually occurs. And it coincides with the 7 years of great tribulation spoken of in Daniel chapter 9. Now, remember, just to recap, mid-trib means that the 7 years of tribulation split in half. The first half is all natural disasters which the church goes through. The rapture happens at the 3.5-year mark, and then the seventh trumpet blows, and the seventh trumpet call comes from Revelations 11:15, and what happens there is the divine, like the bowls of divine wrath of God will come in the last 3.5 years that the church will not go through. The second one is post-tribulation. Just as it says, the church will go through the entire tribulation and be raptured with the dead saints plus the ones that are living will rapture together after the 7 years. And then the last one is pre-trib, meaning the church will not go through any of the tribulation, will be raptured before the 7 years of tribulation, right? So remember, this time, 7 years is supposed to be unique, intense, and severe. And that's why it's called the Great Tribulation, which is greater and worse than all the other persecutions, trials, tribulations the church went through in the past. And the church is exempt from it. Okay? So there it is, guys. That's the 3 different points of view. Hope it's something that kind of opens your mind up to, like, whenever people talk to you about it, then you'll have like, oh, yeah, I know about this. What's it about? Lord's second coming, rapture, and the Great Tribulation, 7 years. Okay? So there it is, guys. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Hope it helps you out when you talk to other people in the former faith when they ask these different types of questions too. And I hope that is something that all of us, and for all of us here, technically speaking, we would be post. Well, no, we're not even post. We're like a mixture of everything because we do go through everything. And because the rapture is spiritual, even when we rapture, we're still here to face the tribulation. So we do have like we don't escape it unless we die literally, right? But so we're not pre-trib, but we're kind of a mix of mid and post. Is it even mid and post? Yeah, because mid says that we're going to, like, if we're providence, we don't escape it. Because we go through the entire the entire tribulation, but yet still in the middle of it, there's a rapture that happens. But it's a spiritual rapture, so it means that we still go through everything. So I would say we're like a mix of both. That's what we are. So you can use either one of those as something that you tell a newcomer or someone who asks what our point of view is. Okay, so there it is, guys. That is today's. That is today's word study on pre, mid, post-tribulation views from the former faith. All right, so let's get into the second break for the day.
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.
Put your hands in the sky if you feel alive. All the stories that we made, just you and I. Never losing all the passion. All this love is my obsession. Oh my gosh, this feeling got me heat stroke. His love like a billion pots about to heat though. I ain't never breaking from this bond, cause you and I are only one. If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? Who you with? If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? Who you with? You and get together with the Lord every day, all day. You and get together with the Lord all day, all day. You and get together with the Lord every day, all day. You and get together with the Lord all day, all day. Together with the Lord, I'm living my best life. Don't worry about a thing, you know it's only some in life. We sing about memory stories that we share. We'll fall deeper in love as we stop and just stare. My eyes only on you. They sparkle with love, don't forget my charm too. There will never be another, live this life only for you. I give you this promise that I will hold true. If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? Who you with? If you ain't living with the Lord, then who you with? Who you with? You and get together with the Lord every day, all day. You and get together with the Lord all day, all day. You and get together with the Lord every day, all day. You and get together with the Lord all day, all day.
We believe in the same God, but we are on different levels.
All right, so let's get into the final segment for today. And every Wednesday, we do have Health is Happiness. We're going to go into some replays, really important ones. Today, we're going to go into Julius when he was originally starting it, but he did a great segment when it comes to our health and sleep. And you guys are really, if you haven't heard this one, guys, you're going to enjoy this. It's a 4-part series. Hope you guys enjoy this. Everyone, please welcome all the way over there from Australia. This is Julius Miuma with Health is Happiness.
Hi everyone, Julius here, and welcome to the Health is Happiness segment of the show, where we discuss ways we can optimize health for a happy life, both physically and spiritually. Last episode, I shared my testimony regarding my health journey, so go check that out if you like. Today's episode, we're going to get started on the topic of sleep. This is part 1, and first we're going to cover why we sleep. We need to understand this really well in order to make improvements to how we sleep. So when we sleep, a lot of things happen, but the key things are our brain consolidates the memories we have rewires and reorganizes itself, and also the thinking and problem-solving part of our brain gets a break. So without good sleep, we are less able to think clearly, recall the things we've learned, and process information. Also, during sleep, our body spends the most amount of time and energy repairing itself, and also it flushes out waste from the brain. So it's kind of like a pit stop for a Formula One car. So as most people already know, sleep is very important, but a lot of people struggle in this modern day and age to get quality sleep. Especially within Providence, I think every one of us have struggled with this a lot as we try to keep the pre-dawn. This leads me to a story I want to share about how I first started to learn about sleep. I think it was around early 2020 March. I was really struggling at that time with chronic fatigue, being sleepy after pre-dawn, and I was relying on excessive amounts of coffee, as I mentioned before, which wasn't really working. So at that time, I asked Pastor Tucker, who's from Japan, I was like, hey, how do you guys do it? I think a lot of people know about Japan's work culture reputation. They hardly sleep from what I've seen, and I was like, really, what's up with that? And he said, yeah, that's true, that's a culture, but people are not as productive as a result of that. But I have a Providence friend who figured something out. So this is what Pastor Tucker told me. And so this friend of his had a really intense career, while at the same time doing a really demanding mission in Providence. So at that time, he really was struggling, and he also took an expensive course regarding sleep. And so Pastor Tucker introduced me to him, which I'm really thankful for, because he really set me on the right path to optimize my sleep. So he gave me some key points about why we sleep and how to address it. So he explained that the reason why we get sleepy is because of the buildup of this chemical in our brain called adenosine. And the quality of sleep depends on how much we can break down this chemical. The primary way he was able to do this was learning how to take a power nap, and also what he ate as his last meal of the day. And he was really managing an intense amount of work that requires a lot of brain power on about 4.5 hours of sleep, combined with some power naps throughout the day, which I'm not recommending, because actually, scientifically speaking, the amount of sleep required actually varies from individual to individual. Now, there are natural short sleepers out there, but everyone can still improve their baseline sleep efficiency. So, back to the story. So, this member from Japan, he got so amazingly good at power naps. And there's this story Pastor Tucker told me when he was waiting in a long line, together with his friend. And his friend had reached his limit and he was just super tired. So he told, oh, Pastor Tucker, sorry, I just need a few minutes. And he leaned against the wall. While standing up, he took a power nap for 5 minutes. Then he was back. Now, that's Yoda level mastery right there, which I personally haven't reached yet, but Sansanim is also someone who's achieved this level of mastery for this skill. Now, there are a couple of times he would be speaking to a crowd of people in Womindong, and we know how endlessly he works with little sleep. So he gets incredibly tired. And while speaking, he paused and took a few minutes break and had a nap right on the spot. Then just woke up after a few minutes. And he just kept going. He just kept speaking. I know it sounds crazy, but power napping is really a skill that, if you're equipped with, it has tremendous benefits, which I've experienced for myself. It really beats coffee all day, any day. So the Japanese member explained that if you take the power nap well, this adenosine chemical is removed. and when you wake up, you feel completely fresh, like you just had a really long rest. But if you still wake up and you're still sleepy, your brain actually failed to break down this chemical. And he taught me how to practice. I never thought I'd be practicing how to sleep, but I actually did. And I'll give more details later about how to do that. But right now, let's get back to why we get sleepy. So we have this chemical called adenosine that makes us sleepy. This chemical builds up as a byproduct of our body using up energy throughout the day. Adenosine creates what you would call a sleep hunger, as Dr. Huberman calls it. Shout out to him for his amazing podcast on all things related to health. I've learned so much from him, which I'm also going to share with you. So the longer you go without sleeping, the adenosine builds up, just as you would get more hungry the longer you go without eating. So when you have coffee, actually what happens is the caffeine kind of takes up all the parking spots in the brain reserved for adenosine. So the adenosine has nowhere to park, but the adenosine keeps building up around the parking lot. Eventually, when the caffeine wears off and pulls out of the parking, all the adenosine that has piled up rushes into the parking spots. And that's what causes your crash afterwards. So a really good power nap works really well because it eliminates the adenosine from the brain. So you don't get the crash afterwards that comes with coffee. But adenosine is not the only primary factor that determines our wakefulness. The other important factor is our circadian rhythm. Now, circadian rhythm pretty much refers to our internal 24-hour body clock. Every human being and every animal we know of in existence has this. It determines when we're sleepy and when we feel alert by regulating the release of particular hormones at particular times. So our period of sleepiness tends to be condensed to one block, typically 6 to 8 hours, and this period is set by our circadian rhythm. Think of your circadian rhythm like a hula hoop. First, you swing it around to get it going, then once you're spinning it around, it's easier to keep it running. But if your hula hoop hits something along the way, or you mess up the timing, then you have to start again, which takes more effort. The aim of the game is to get our hula hoop spinning in the right direction and to keep it going. In the same way, we want to set our circadian rhythm properly and then keep it going with as little disruption as possible. The most significant factors that influence our body clock is the timing of light exposure, food, and exercise. Out of these three, light exposure is the most important. The time we are exposed to bright light matters a lot more than most people think. This makes a lot of sense when you think about the fact that until the light bulb, our daily activities were governed by daytime and nighttime. So controlling the timing of these three things will control our circadian rhythm, which will determine the periods we are alert and when we feel sleepy. Now that we understand what governs sleep, next time I will share the tools to help us manage adenosine and control our circadian rhythm. This will allow us to sleep better and more efficiently. That's it for today's episode of Health is Happiness. Please don't hesitate to share in the comments if you have any questions, and thank you for tuning in to the show. See you next time.
And thank you, Julius, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. This is a rerun, but is a very, very important one, especially this week's message talked about sleep enough so you don't die, right? So everyone, if you have any questions or anything, put in the comments below if this really, really helps you out when it comes to your sleeping patterns and habits too. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. Everyone, have an amazing and awesome service tonight, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm